Hey everyone, this is the first of two videos that I'm going to do on the sort of the philosophical content of the course. So the first issue, the central issue, right? The central issue is what are the businesses that go into and maybe even control, possibly, the technological radicalization of our identity, right? That's what the Vatican document is about. That technology companies today are radicalizing, changing our human nature. There are two possible ways of doing this, right? One, transhumanism, where the idea is to perfect the human in our natural capacity. But the other is then post-humanism, which is where you replace our biological or aspects of our biology with circuitry, with machines, right? So the cyborg option. So those are the two. Now, the Vatican document thinks both radicalizations, that just means, right, changing our human nature, both of those radicalizations are problematic, right? It's not the idea, right, that somehow transhumanism is a lesser problem than posthumanism, right? Both of them are problematic, right? So the problem with transhumanism is that it aims at a false perfection of the human being, right, which would deny our intrinsic vulnerability. And then obviously with posthumanism, right, where you're literally creating sort of circuitry, you are making us a different kind of species, right, a different kind of an animal. You know, we're no longer an animal exactly, right, we're this kind of hybrid, okay? So they're slightly different phenomena. You're going to want to make sure which of your cases really kind of attaches to that, and then go from there, right? So questions that I think you want to be focused on is your topic, right? There are three possible topics, so whichever one you choose, is your topic, does it decrease or increase what the Vatican document calls solidarity developments? Solidaria just means solidarity, which just means humans standing together, shoulder to shoulder, engaged in a common project, looking out for each other as they develop. So is it a case of solidarity development or not? Okay. And that, I think, is going to be shaped. I mean, it's for you to decide, right? But I mean, it's going to be shaped, I think, by the topic that you pick. Does your case increase or decrease technocracy, right? So technocracy is a political term. It means the politics of technological control. And the thing is that you and I do not own the means of technology. That is owned by a very limited number of private individuals, right? It's actually not even owned by the government. It's owned by people like Jeff Bezos, Zuckerberg, AI, right, is all but done by private investors. Elon Musk's involved, right? So it's just a very important point, right? So that what the Vatican is suggesting is that these changes of transhumanism and posthumanism, the underlying business has a political application as well, namely oligarchy. Oligarchy, right, is where the politics of a community is owned and controlled by a very limited number of people. So does your case, does it increase that oligarchic structure? Or does it actually somehow continue to facilitate a general population having control, and as you know, right, but we'll get onto this in the next video, right, that what the church is interested in is this agency, right? So the problem of technocracy is that the agency is not with you and I, it's with the owners, the oligarchs who control that technology. Is your next question, is your case, does it increase or decrease this expression that they use, homo technologicus, right? So this, does your case, does it make you and I thoroughly technological, right? That's the problem of transhumanism, post-humanism. Or does it actually moderate it? Does it ensure that there is a residual or a reservoir of the, so to speak, traditional human being, right? And then is your case, does it increase or decrease what the Vatican document calls the cult of the body, and the pharmaceutical industry, as well as obviously the medical surgeries that support this cult of the body. And then how does your case relate to, and the expression they use is the social imaginary of mass culture, right? So this is this idea, and this is where, in the other video, right, I said this is what I think is really interesting about this document. This idea that there is a new cosmology or a new mythology or a new astrology so just a new milieu, but this milieu has all these sort of meanings and gods and demons, right? How does your business, the business phenomenon, right? So we're always interested in the way in which business is underlying, paying for, developing these technological appropriations that you and I are making. So how does your business intersect with, right? So what the document says is that technology is actually driving our social imaginaries, and specifically, right, it points out the way in which huge number of TV shows, films, maybe even some popular music, but certainly TV shows and films pick up on the idea of dystopia. I mean, I suppose even going back to Michael Jackson's famous Thriller video and dance, that would also be picking up on this idea of a social imaginary that picks up on a mythology, and that has a kind of dystopian, more, I would think in the I mean, not to go on about the Michael Jackson, right, but in that case, right, that's more, I would think, dystopian than science fiction. But if you just think, I'll assume some of you are really interested in, I mean, if not Star Wars, because that's maybe a bit dated now, I don't know, but like, just look at the Dune movies, would be a typical example, right? I mean, they include some of the most famous contemporary actors and actresses, the big cultural events when they happen. So we just have a lot of these stories, right, of technology driving kind of well, it's kind of weird, isn't it, right? I mean, this is, I think, what the church is kind of wondering about. It's technology is both presented to us as development, right? The MRI machine, great. But then also, right, this kind of more stranger dystopian, right? To think of Dune, right? I mean, the way in which the machine are prohibited, right? It's a punishable offense, right, to have a machine technology in those movies. So anyway, just how does your business relate to, how is it creating, and in what kind of creation is it making of a social imaginary, right? So I think if you're doing like the Cuccinelli, well, it's quite clear, right, that he's really playing with a social imaginary that is kind of romanticism, not technology, right? Solidarity, not dystopia, Okay. All right. That's enough on this. So I was just setting out the problem. So the problem is the business. Never lose sight of that, right? You're talking about the business applications of transhumanism and posthumanism, or the antidote to that phenomenon. Okay. All right. Great. See you in the next video very soon. Okay. Bye bye.